Hello and welcome to an episode of Let's Install Operating Systems, where I put myself through immense pain and torture to try and install an operating system on all God knows how many of these machines. We're also going to be installing the hard drives, as I've most recently obtained a whole bunch of them. And let's go ahead. So this one here is a Toshiba Satellite A30. It's no particular known information on what precisely it is, model-wise. But it is an A30, it's got a Pentium 4 processor. This doesn't have a keyboard, so installing, I think we're going to put XP on this. It's going to be a little bit tricky, so let's go ahead. I've got the charger here, won't be needing that right now. We'll need that later. So let's go ahead and install hard drive. This one has got quite an interesting design. You can just slide the optical drive right out of here. If I hadn't have known that this was for this laptop, I would have completely thrown it away and I'd be like, oh, I can't find the drive for this machine. Well, look no further. Now this is missing a caddy, so I will probably have to locate that caddy later. But the weight and the pressure of the optical drive should just be able to hold it in place. So, should just be able to plug it in. Won't be the other way around. No, it was the other way around. So we've got to plug it in this way around, right here. Push it in, there we go. Lovely. Let me just stick this bit back on. Put the screw back in, and that should be us ready to rumble. So I just got to go set her up with the keyboard and the mouse, which is the trackpad of course, and we'll get started on installing Windows. Right, I moved the camera in a slight bit closer so you can actually see the screen. I have experienced that in older videos where the camera is nowhere near the screen and you can't see what the hell I'm doing. And these old screens notoriously have terrible viewing angles, so doing you a favour here. Get in there with the power button and pray to God it still boots up, because this thing's been thrashed around. Ah, yes it does. In touch with tomorrow, Toshiba, so you can't particularly see that very well. Oh yeah, these viewing angles are terrible. You're gonna have to take my word for it. Can't seem to get the drive out. That's funny, because I have managed to get this to eject in the past. And now it doesn't want to do that anymore. Thankfully, my SIM ejector tool comes to the rescue. And we can put in our Windows XP Home Edition Service Pack 2 CD, which has been in my family for ages. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just rotate the camera around and just place it on the computer itself so that you can actually see what the hell we're looking at. Would be a good idea to remove the charger maybe, and then I can position it a little bit better. There, whatever. We'll see how far we go with this. So F1 to resume. Certainly a more complicated version of Windows that I've installed. Especially considering it's missing a very important part here, the keyboard. This won't be the only time this USB keyboard makes an appearance, because there's another one, although it does have a keyboard, don't work. So either the keyboard's at fault or the board's got issues, but we'll fix that later. I don't have any parts for that one, so we're just going to roll with it. This one will get a full restoration soon. I might find a donor unit, or this might become the donor unit. Either way, we'll have a Satellite A30. So Windows setup is currently installing. The brightness levels on this panel aren't great, but then again I can't adjust them because I'm missing that all-important key. Even this keyboard doesn't have any function keys. It should, it's a Packard Bell. They normally have all the fancy key extensions and stuff all over the place, but evidently that's not the case with this one. So, there we go. This is why we do not invest in Packard Bell products. Right, so welcome to setup. To set up XP, press enter. Yes. I do agree to the end user license agreements. If I didn't, the Microsoft ninjas will come and murder me. Unpartitioned space, that'll be 40 gigabytes, that will be correct. That is the size of the hard drive. Now, these drives actually came from a friend of mine who discovered them and he was like, I don't need any of these pin patter drives, I only want SATA, do you want them? And I'm like, yes please, absolutely. To make this video not 12,000 years long, we're going to just do NTFS quick on everything. That's obviously Windows NT, Windows 9X and Windows 95 will be a bit slower or quicker, not really sure. So we'll see what does first, but of course the quick format side of things will help. He has said that he's zeroed out all these drives pre-giving them to me, so there should be no data on them already, which needs to be wiped. Even though the data will be completely eradicated in the installation process anyways, if there was any. Which I don't think there was. So now we're just copying the files. So whilst it's doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this machine, going off of the specs I can see on the palm rest. It says, it's a Toshiba Satellite A30-203. It is power up your life with an Intel Pentium 4 processor, 2.66 GHz, 256 megabytes of DDR RAM, which this does not have. I have instead poked, I believe, 2 gigs in this thing. This thing's a ridiculously powerful machine. And a 30 gigabyte hard drive, so this has also got a storage upgrade. Multimedia made easy. CDRW DVD-ROM drive, up to 64 megabytes of DDR video RAM. And a 15-inch TFT XGA display panel with a separate TV out button, and easy keys for quick and simple CD, DVD, MP3 playback. So yes, this thing can actually play DVDs, CDs, and all manner of things, thanks to a little button on the front. So it's literally just like the old Toshiba I showed off, but this one is much newer and can actually play movies using that feature, which I think is pretty cool. I'll have to play around with it a bit. But we'll see if we can get that working. Multiple connectivity, version 90 data fax modem, which no one will ever use, so that's basically null and void. Integrated LAN, of course, every computer needs to have integrated LAN. If it doesn't, then we're in trouble. Wireless LAN upgradable. This one has got the upgrade for wireless LAN, so we'll be definitely playing around with that. It's got an iLink port for we have cameras and Sony gubbins that mostly just use IEEE 1394. And it's also got fast infrared, 2x USB 2.0, one of which I'm using for the keyboard, and a TV out port. So this thing does have quite a lot of multimedia-oriented specs. So this is quite nice. It's ready to go with Windows XP Home Edition, or will be soon, and Works 7.0, which I suppose we'll install. To get more out of your notebook with options and accessories from Toshiba's More For You range, go to computers.toshiba.co.uk. And that is the specs. So whilst that's installing, I'm going to take a break, have a drink, and a bunch of others, and we'll get back to you once it's finished installing. Okay, the computer is currently in the process of rebooting, so soon we should be met with the rest of the Windows setup prompt. If I just pull it out there, it's doing the type of things you'd expect from a computer that's just installed XP. Now, in real life, the screen looks really nice, up close. Of course, the viewing angles are awful, but that's what you expect from a TFT XGA LCD panel. So, there we go, we're installing Windows XP, which is all well and good. So, I'm looking forward to what's next. Now, of course, I have to use the trackpad, because we don't have a mouse with this. I think, oh yeah, it does work. Works perfectly fine. I guess it must have been the Linux drivers I was testing this thing with, because it was really unstable and unreliable and kept dropping out. But this seems to be really, really good. Really fine. Cool. So setup will complete in approximately 39 minutes. Yeah, something I don't miss about these old school hard drives, the speeds. And a lot of people have actually suggested that I should upgrade to solid state media for these computers. There is a very, very good reason I don't. That's purely down to both cost and just the level of faff you have to go through, because you have to buy mSATA discs or SD cards or whatever the heck people use with them. And then you have to just convert them with these fancy adapters, and half the time they're just circuit boards, so they don't fit in the caddies. The ones that do have plastic cases are ridiculously expensive, plus you have to put the cost of the drive itself on there, and it just gets quickly overwhelming. Whereas for, I don't know, £8, I could get a bundle of 4 2.5-inch IDE hard drives, or if I know a friend who conveniently has a whole bunch that he doesn't want anymore, that's free. I don't have to spend a penny or a dime, and then I can put the funds towards actually doing important things like replacing the keyboard and the trim piece and the screws. Although the screws aren't really that important because this thing is really, really rock solid with the screws it's got. Although half of the screws I did actually scavenge off of another machine just to put this together. And the missing covers and panels on the bottom, and the fact that this doesn't have a hard drive caddy, but I think I'll find that. I've got a whole bunch of caddies I've got, because this obviously came from the place where most of my computers come from now, and I've got a huge pile of caddies just in a box somewhere, so I'll have to go through those caddies and find the one that fits this machine specifically. That'll be fun. But I think for now it'll work fine. The DVD-ROM drive holds the hard drive down, so the drive won't move. So that's good. If it was a computer like one of the machines we're going to work on in a bit, that's going to be a bit tricky. Now, there is one machine in this pile that we won't unfortunately be able to do anything with today, and that will be an IBM machine. There's a very good reason behind that, is because it's missing... well, it's not missing... Well, it's missing a cover, but that doesn't really matter. It doesn't have any RAM, and it takes PC100 memory, which we do not have. We do have one single stick of PC100, but when I put it in, we discovered that this computer unfortunately suffers a bug that a lot of the early IBMs suffer from, which is called the blink of death, and it's basically a power delivery circuit inside the motherboard has gone faulty. You can fix it by soldering a resistor in there, I heard. You can do a whole bunch of faffing around. A lot of people just tend to give up on the boards because the boards are just dead. Thankfully, I don't think this one's too far gone because it does power on a little bit. You just got to keep thrashing it around and it'll stay on for a minute or a half and then stop functioning when it needs to reboot. It's not great. We're going to see if we can potentially just replace those chips and that whole circuit with a better alternative. But that won't happen today, unfortunately. But we will put a hard drive in it, but we won't do anything with that computer, unfortunately. But do not fret, there are 2 IBMs in this lot that we'll be fixing up. There'll also be several Dells, a couple Compaqs, Sony. I think there's a Sony in here somewhere as well, my new favourite obsession. And there's some weird ones as well, the British brands that no one has probably ever heard of, so those will be very interesting to look into. But I think a large majority of the computers we're going to be working on today are Dell systems, so if you're not really a Dell fan, then this isn't really the video for you. But you can stick around for stuff like this Toshiba and a bunch of other machines, so don't go anywhere. Right, now we can set the windows up. Enough yammering on. Regional language options. We don't want anything that's not British. Make this the most British machine that ever invented. Heck, we'll get a skin with the Union Jack on it to make it the most British thing in the world. And then it'll be scrutinised because it's not British. It's Toshiba, it's Japanese. Anyway, it's also got a US keyboard layout. Now, this at the moment doesn't matter because it doesn't have a keyboard at all. But I will be putting a UK keyboard in it. I'll be putting whatever keyboard I can purchase, because you can't really find these that easily without cannibalising another computer, and I really don't want to do that, so we're going to just see if we can find something. So we're going to put the name in, as always, and the organisation. This stuff never changes, ever. I think I've typed this phrase numerous times into every computer I've ever set up. No matter what operating system it runs, it is the same. Yeah, works for me. Although I think pretty sure that was a lowercase s. Was there a space there? I think there was a space. I can't remember. I've forgotten how to set up my own machines. Now it wants the product key. Now conveniently I happen to have this for XP, but when we have to go to install Windows 98, which thankfully should be only on maybe 1 or 2 systems, that's going to be bloody difficult. So I don't have the key for that Windows 98 disk. And I mean, I got it from work, so I don't know. I suppose you could always stick the disk in a modern computer and extract the key that way. There's a magic method of doing that, I hear. We'll see if that method works. It has worked for other disks in the past, so we'll try it. Now I'm going to, obviously, pause this whilst I put the product key in, so no free product key for you. Right, we've done the product key now, so that's no longer a concern. The fans in this thing are very loud, so we're just going to name this SAT A30. Which is funny because that was the name I think I gave to an older computer I had that I ended up throwing away. I think it was a Satellite A300, which ironically happen to have another one of now. I think I've got 2 of them now. Yeah, it's ridiculous. You try to get rid of the machines and they come straight back to you. It's the same thing with my Samsung netbooks. I've binned one and it's now come back to me. I've binned my Acers and they've come back to me. I've binned my Toshibas and they've somehow found their way back home. So, yeah, you can't truly get rid of anything. It'll always come straight back to you. We're going to update the date and time settings, although that really does not matter because the battery in this computer doesn't work. Although I did actually end up scavenging it out of the battery bin because it has a very specific design. I was like, right, I need to find batteries for these machines. I'll go digging through the bin. Ended up finding almost all of them. The only one I couldn't find a battery for was the Advent. One of the Advents, which sucks. But the more weird and wonderful computers I have managed to find the batteries for, especially the Sonys. Sony batteries are so hard to find. I ended up scavenging all of them. Even the computers I wasn't able to rescue, thankfully, but I have got all those pieces. We're going to set the date, obviously correctly. It is November 2024 at the time of filming. The exact date, I'm not actually sure. I think it's the 23rd today. Yeah, I think it's the 23rd. The date, I mean the time, we're just going to set as... Oh, this is 12 hours, isn't it? We'll set it as 1. 1:19. Yeah, that works for me. We'll fix it later. Right, cool. Now that's just going to finish reinstalling the rest of Windows, and I'll come back later. Right, I'm back. Bigger and better camera angle, so you can kind of see some of what I'm doing now. We're going to just use typical settings for this. Not really much else you can do with the networking, because half the time it won't even get the drivers for it, so... Some computers you do get lucky on, and it can find stuff like the sound drivers and a whole bunch of other things just magically off the bat. Ubuntu was able to find the drivers for this machine, but that's supposedly because it's an older version of Ubuntu and an older computer. So, that's lucky. Some older versions of Ubuntu do not like newer hardware, so there's that. But I will let this install the rest of the way and come back soon. I always find the things that Windows spits out whilst you're installing is a bit interesting. Connect your computers with easy home networking. As more families come to own more than one computer, it's becoming important to be able to share resources such as files, printers, and modems among multiple computers. Physically? I hope they don't mean physically, because you have to take them out. The Network Setup Wizard takes you step by step through the process of networking your computers and peripheral devices. Create a network with confidence. Internet connection sharing also enables all the network... it goes away. This was like, record a CD as easy as saving information to a floppy disk. But CDRWs and CDRs are not the same. But XP did introduce the ability to use disks as flash drives or something magic. Something you couldn't do with Windows 98 or anything older. Which also makes it a pain in the bum to find drivers for them. If you burn the wrong driver to a CD, that's on there forever. So you've got to really cherry pick. Or, install USB drivers. And that's normally what I do. I just get the mass storage driver on a CD. Because that just works universally. You don't have to worry about it. It's a custom driver. Built on the proven reliability of Windows 2000, Windows XP Home Edition offers features that will improve the stability of your computer. It does a great job at managing things, which makes the most of a reliable Windows ever. Managing important files to keep them from being deleted or replaced. At least to delete System32 and then the whole thing collapses, and they haven't fixed that yet. I don't even think Windows 11 is immune to having System32 removed. Well, no, I don't even think it would have System32 anymore because it's 64-bit. System 64? No, sorry, that's SysWow 64, I think. But yes, it's Oh wow, this thing's dated. Zip disk with a little R next to it, registered. CD or memory card from your digital camera. Windows XP identifies the content and automatically starts the appropriate program. Or it just pops up a window and says, "Hi, I see you've installed the same USB device you've done so, you know, the last 450,000 times. Would you like me to open something for you?" And you're like, "Yes, I want you to open Microsoft Office. I've told you that thousands of times, and it still doesn't open it." Not a great feature. Stay up to date. Windows XP searches for updates online. Well, not really much anymore, but it has been brought back largely via a fan service called Legacy Update. So we can have a play around with that, because I know it's got Wi-Fi, so we don't have to faff around with any cables. But I might do all the drivers and stuff later. I think to save on time, we're gonna definitely try and cut down on the amount of unnecessary stuff we do to things. I think it's just installing drivers and updates and not drivers, installing Windows. That's it. The drivers and updates and all that fancy stuff comes later. It's mostly we're just talking about the computer and physically installing the drive. I quite like this satellite. I like big P4 machines. The big thickness of them. This isn't the only one in the lot. I think there's 3 or 4 others buried in there somewhere. I think there's a couple AMD machines in there as well, so plenty of diversity, but it is largely just Wintel. But that's what computers largely were. Intel and Windows ruled the world, and AMD wasn't particularly popular, at least until it took off recently with the Ryzen series and whatnot. So that'd be interesting. So we're finalising the installation. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of this. I'll come back once it's rebooted. Right, it's just fed me the thank you message and shut down, so we shall see our brand new Windows XP computer. I like BIOS screens that mention what processor it's got on. Obviously it mentions it's got P4. Fun fact, certain machines with Centrino based technology, if you take the wireless card out, it just shows the actual processor, which would most likely be a Pentium M. But with the wireless card it says Intel Centrino mobile technology. I learned that out the hard way. I just powered some old junk up without wireless accessories, and it says, yeah, this is either Centrino or this is not. It's interesting. We've got a mouse cursor. Still very surprised that the mouse cursor works perfectly fine. I mean, I half expected it to not be fine. To improve the appearance of visual elements, Windows will automatically adjust your screen resolution. Oh, cool, thank you. Now, I do not know what video card this has in it. This probably has some sort of ATI Radeon card in it, maybe? I don't think it's fancy enough to have a GeForce. All it mentions is 64 megabyte DDR video RAM, so it might not even have anything in it at all, other than Intel video expansion. That wasn't really a thing. Like, I don't even think GMA took off until the late XP period. This is early XP stuff. So I'm not really sure. Oh yes, the animation everyone likes, but there's no sound. No music. No magic setup wizard music. Oh man. Although I can hear it in my head, like whenever I set up Windows XP, I just hear the music in my head. I don't even have to hear it physically out of the computer, it just plays. The memories. Help protect your PC by installing updates that don't really exist anymore. Okay. Please wait for a moment while Windows checks if you're connected to the internet. I'm not connected via a DSL or cable modem. Never will be. That is painful. And super slow and really insecure. Just obtain IP and DNS automatically. This thing is going on the internet anytime soon, so don't have any drivers for it anyways, so there's no point. Ready to activate Windows? Nope. Not yet. I'll do that later. I'm not going to bore everyone with that procedure. Who will use this computer? Me. Although you can add like 5 users to this, which is amazing. Thank you! Congratulations, you're ready to go. To learn about the exciting new features of Windows XP, take a product tour. You can also find useful information in the Help and Support Center. These options are located in the Start menu down below. Thank you. And this time, you hear the startup sound, so yeah. Sounds fun. But of course I can't hear the startup sound because there's no sound. So yeah. I don't think this is going to be a terrifically long video. I think I might just upload these in segments. Just one machine, one video. I think that would work. So there, that is our Windows XP installed on our system. I am curious as to the specifications. Even though I've technically read them off the sheet, but I'm curious. I think the mouse buttons on these are slightly screwed up. Yeah, 266 GHz Pentium 4. 480 megabytes of RAM, so maybe it does not like the massive RAM upgrade. I don't even think XP can do more than like 1 gig, so interesting. This device manager lists all the hardware devices installed on your computer. Use device manager. Yeah, let's check device manager, see what's missing. Multimedia audio controller, modem, video controller. However, the network devices, yeah, it's picked up my Realtek RTL NIC. Cool. I like that. Nice. So we don't actually have to do much with the networking side of things. We obviously need to install the Wi-Fi driver, which doesn't even show up, so that'd be exciting. But that has been installing Windows, and we'll see you all in the next episode. So we'll shut this down. Thank you all, and we will join you in the next episode. Bye now.